It was a quiet evening on the outskirts of New Haven, where the stars seemed brighter than anywhere else in the world. Ethan, a young farmer with dreams bigger than his small-town life, often spent his nights gazing at the sky through an old telescope he'd salvaged from a junkyard. He loved imagining what lay beyond Earth, planets teeming with strange creatures and civilizations far more advanced than humanity. That night, however, something unusual happened. As Ethan adjusted the lens of his telescope, a streak of light zipped across the sky. It wasn't like any meteor or satellite he'd ever seen. It moved erratically, almost as if it were alive. Before he could blink, the object descended rapidly toward the nearby woods. Curiosity got the better of him. Grabbing a flashlight and throwing on his jacket, Ethan headed out into the chilly night. His boots crunched against the frost-covered ground as he made his way to the forest's edge. The air smelled of pine and damp earth, but there was another scent too, something metallic yet sweet. Deeper into the woods, Ethan stumbled upon a clearing. In the center stood a figure unlike anything he had ever imagined. She, or at least it looked female, was tall and slender, her skin shimmering faintly under the moonlight like liquid silver. Her eyes glowed softly, shifting between shades of blue and green. She wore a flowing garment that seemed woven from starlight itself. Ethan froze, unsure whether to run or stay. But before he could decide, the alien turned to face him. Her expression was unreadable, but there was no hostility in her gaze. Instead, she tilted her head slightly, studying him with curiosity. "Hello?" she said, her voice melodic and smooth, though tinged with an accent that didn't belong to any language Ethan knew. Somehow, he understood her perfectly. Hi," Ethan stammered, feeling both terrified and mesmerized. "Are you real?" She smiled, a gesture so human it caught him off guard. "I am very real," she replied. "And I am glad you are here." Before Ethan could ask why, she took a step closer. Without thinking, he mirrored her movement, drawn by some inexplicable force. When their faces were mere inches apart, she leaned in and pressed her lips gently against his. For a moment, time stopped. Ethan felt a surge of warmth spread through his body, accompanied by a strange buzzing sensation in his mind. Images flashed before his eyes, stars exploding, planets forming, oceans rising, all within seconds. Then, just as suddenly as it began, it ended. The alien pulled back, her glowing eyes locking onto his. "Thank you," she whispered. And then, without another word, she vanished into thin air, leaving Ethan alone in the forest, his heart pounding and his mind racing. He touched his lips, still tingling from the kiss. What had just happened? Who or what was she? And why did he feel like his life would never be the same again? Little did Ethan know, this encounter was only the beginning of a journey that would change not only his destiny but the fate of two worlds. The next morning, Ethan woke up with a headache and a strange feeling in his chest, as though something inside him was vibrating at a frequency he couldn't quite grasp. He sat up in bed, rubbing his temples, trying to shake off the surreal memories of the previous night. Had it all been a dream? A vivid hallucination brought on by too much stargazing? But when he touched his lips again, they still felt different, tingly electric. No matter how hard he tried to convince himself otherwise, Ethan knew deep down that the encounter had been real. That alien girl, whatever she was, had kissed him, and now he couldn't stop thinking about her. As he got dressed and headed out to tend to his fields, Ethan's mind raced with questions. Who was she? Where had she come from? And most importantly, why had she chosen him? He wasn't special, not really. Just a simple farmer living in a sleepy town where nothing exciting ever happened. Yet, for some reason, this otherworldly being had appeared in his life and left an indelible mark. Over the next few days, Ethan found himself distracted. He'd forget to water crops or misplace tools because his thoughts kept drifting back to the mysterious girl. At night, he returned to the forest clearing, hoping to catch another glimpse of her. But no matter how long he waited, she never reappeared. Then, one evening while sitting on his porch staring at the stars, Ethan noticed something odd. His reflection in the window seemed wrong. Not drastically so, but subtle changes were there if you looked closely enough. His eyes appeared brighter, almost glowing faintly, and his skin had taken on a slight silvery sheen under the moonlight. Panicked, Ethan rushed to the bathroom mirror to inspect himself more carefully. "What's happening to me?" he muttered aloud, running his fingers over his face. Was this some kind of side effect from the kiss? Or worse, was it contagious? Alien diseases weren't exactly covered in high school biology class. Before he could spiral further into paranoia, a soft voice interrupted his thoughts. "Ethan." He spun around, heart pounding, only to find her standing in his doorway. She looked just as ethereal as before, her shimmering form casting faint shadows across the room. Her presence filled the space, making everything else feel insignificant. "You're here," Ethan said, breathless. "How did you?" "I needed to see you," she interrupted, stepping closer. Her movements were fluid, almost hypnotic. "Things have changed since our meeting. Things I must explain." Ethan swallowed nervously. "Changed how? What do you mean?" She hesitated, her luminous eyes searching his face. "When we kissed, a bond formed between us, a connection deeper than you can imagine. It is not merely physical, it is spiritual, biological, eternal." Ethan blinked, struggling to process what she was saying. "A bond? What kind of bond?" Her expression softened, tinged with both sadness and determination. "I am carrying your child." For a moment, silence hung heavy in the air. Ethan's jaw dropped, and his mind went blank. "Wait, what? My child? That's impossible. We're not even the same species." She nodded slowly. "And yet it is true. Your DNA, or essence rather, is compatible with mine in ways neither of us anticipated. This union has created something extraordinary, a new life that bridges our worlds." Ethan stumbled backward, gripping the edge of the counter for support. "This has to be a joke. Some cosmic prank. You show up out of nowhere, kiss me, and now you're telling me I'm going to be a father to an alien baby? How does that even work?" "It works because the universe is vast and unpredictable," she replied calmly. "Our child will be unique, a bridge between humanity and my people. Through them, peace may finally be possible." "Peace?" Ethan echoed, his voice rising. "You're talking about diplomacy and intergalactic relations like this is some sci-fi movie. Meanwhile, I'm just a guy who grows corn for a living." Her gaze hardened slightly. "Do not underestimate yourself, Ethan. You were chosen for a reason. There is strength within you that even you do not yet understand." Ethan wanted to argue, to deny everything she was saying, but deep down, he knew she was right. Ever since that night in the woods, he'd felt different. Changed. Like a piece of him belonged somewhere else now. "What happens next?" he asked finally, his voice quieter. "What am I supposed to do?" She stepped closer, placing a hand gently on his arm. Her touch sent waves of warmth through his body, calming his racing thoughts. "For now, you live your life as you always have. But soon, you will need to make a choice that will determine the future of both our worlds." "A choice?" Ethan repeated, dread pooling in his stomach. "What kind of choice?" Before she could answer, a low hum filled the room. The sound grew louder, vibrating through the walls and floor until Ethan could feel it in his bones. Outside, the sky lit up with a brilliant light, brighter than anything he'd ever seen. "They've found me," she whispered urgently, pulling away. "I must leave. But know this, Ethan, you are not alone anymore. We are connected, and together, we will face what comes next." Without waiting for a response, she turned and vanished into thin air, leaving Ethan staring at the spot where she had stood. Moments later, a massive ship descended from the heavens, hovering silently above the town. Its surface gleamed like polished obsidian, reflecting the stars themselves. As the townsfolk emerged from their homes, pointing and shouting in confusion, Ethan realized his ordinary life was truly over. Whatever awaited him next, one thing was certain: he was no longer just a farmer. He was part of something far greater, and far stranger, than he could have ever imagined. The alien ship loomed above New Haven like a dark cloud, casting an eerie shadow over the town. Its presence was both awe-inspiring and terrifying, its sheer size dwarfing everything around it. People gathered in the streets, their faces illuminated by the unnatural glow emanating from the vessel. Some pointed upward with wonder, while others clutched their children close, whispering prayers or curses under their breath. Ethan stood frozen on his porch, staring at the massive craft as it hovered silently. He could feel the hum of its engines vibrating through the ground beneath his feet. His heart raced, not just from fear, but also from the strange connection he now shared with whoever, or whatever, was aboard that ship. He glanced down at his hands, still tinged with that faint silvery sheen. Whatever had changed inside him after the kiss felt stronger now, more pronounced. It was as if the ship's arrival had awakened something dormant within him, a part of himself he didn't fully understand yet. Before Ethan could process what to do next, a beam of light shot down from the ship, striking the center of the town square. A group of figures materialized within the glowing column, their forms tall and slender, much like the girl who had kissed him. They wore sleek, metallic suits that shimmered like liquid mercury, and their eyes glowed with the same otherworldly luminescence. The townspeople gasped and backed away, forming a wide circle around the newcomers. Ethan hesitated for only a moment before stepping forward, drawn by instinct, or perhaps by the bond he shared with the alien girl. As he approached, one of the figures turned toward him, tilting their heads slightly as if studying him. "You are the human," the figure said, their voice deep and resonant, echoing in Ethan's mind rather than his ears. "The one who carries our future." Ethan swallowed hard, trying to steady his nerves. I don't even know your names. Or hers. She never told me anything about you, or what this is all about." The figure regarded him silently for a moment before speaking again. "We are the Lumini, a people bound to the stars. Our kind has long sought harmony between worlds, but such unity requires sacrifice. You have been chosen, human, to play a pivotal role in this destiny." "Chosen?" Ethan repeated, his voice rising. "Nobody asked me if I wanted to be chosen. This isn't some grand adventure, it's my life. And now you're telling me I'm supposed to raise some cosmic miracle child? What happens when they grow up? Do I get a say in any of this?" The Lumini tilted their head again, their expression unreadable behind their glowing visor. "Your emotions run strong, as expected of your species. But time is not on our side. Already, factions among us question the wisdom of this union. If we are to succeed, we must act swiftly." "What factions?" Ethan demanded. "What are you talking about?" Before the Lumini could answer, another beam of light descended nearby, revealing a second group of figures clad in darker, jagged armor. Their presence was immediately hostile, their weapons trained on the first group, and on Ethan. "The dissenters," the Lumini beside Ethan said grimly. "They oppose our mission. To them, your involvement is an abomination, a corruption of our purity." Ethan's stomach dropped. "Great. Just great. So now I've got space politics thrown into the mix too?" One of the dissenters stepped forward, their voice cold and sharp. "You have defiled the sacred bond of our people, human. Your kind is unworthy of such a gift. Surrender yourself, and we may yet spare your world." Ethan took a step back, his mind racing. "Spare my world? What does that even mean?" "It means," the Lumini explained quickly, "that if the dissenters succeed in stopping us, they will see your planet destroyed, to ensure no trace of this union remains." Ethan's blood ran cold. "Destroyed? For what? Because of me? Because of her?" "Yes," the Lumini replied simply. "Which is why you must come with us. Only then can we protect both you and your unborn child." "No," Ethan said firmly, shaking his head. "I'm not leaving my home, not without answers. Not without knowing exactly what's going on here." The Lumini sighed, their glowing eyes dimming slightly. "Very well. But know this, staying here puts everyone in danger. The dissenters will not hesitate to destroy anyone who stands in their way." As if to prove their point, the dissenters raised their weapons, aiming directly at the crowd of terrified townsfolk. Chaos erupted as people screamed and scattered, seeking cover wherever they could find it. Ethan ducked behind a parked car, his mind spinning. He couldn't let innocent people die because of him. But how could he possibly fight against beings with technology far beyond anything Earth had ever seen? Suddenly, the alien girl appeared beside him, her form flickering like a mirage. "Ethan," she whispered urgently. "You must trust me. Follow me, and I will lead you to safety." "But the others," Ethan began, glancing back at the panicked crowd. "They will be safe if you come with me," she insisted. "This conflict is not theirs to bear. It is yours and mine." Ethan hesitated, torn between doing what was right for his community and protecting the life growing inside her. Finally, he nodded. "All right. Let's go." She grabbed his hand, and in an instant, the world around them dissolved into a blur of light and sound. When Ethan opened his eyes again, they were aboard the Lumini ship, surrounded by glowing walls and floating holograms. The hum of the engines was louder here, resonating deep within his chest. "Where are we?" Ethan asked, looking around in awe. "This is our sanctuary," the girl replied softly. "Here, we can prepare for what lies ahead. But first, there is much you need to learn." Ethan turned to face her, his expression serious. "Then teach me. Tell me everything. Because I need to understand why my life, and my child's life, is suddenly so important." The girl nodded, her glowing eyes filled with determination. "Very well, Ethan. But remember, knowledge comes with responsibility. Once you know the truth, there will be no turning back." Ethan took a deep breath, steeling himself for whatever revelations awaited him. Whatever happened next, one thing was clear: his ordinary life was gone forever. From this moment on, he wasn't just a farmer, he was a father, a protector, and a key player in a cosmic battle that would shape the fate of two worlds. The interior of the Lumini ship was unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. The walls shimmered with a soft, pulsating light, as though they were alive. Holographic displays floated in midair, showing intricate patterns and symbols that shifted and danced like living constellations. The air hummed with energy, vibrating through his body in a way that felt both foreign and strangely familiar. "This place," Ethan murmured, taking it all in. "It's beautiful, but overwhelming. It is a reflection of who we are," the girl said, her voice calm but tinged with urgency. "Our technology, our culture, even our very essence is tied to the stars. And now so are you." Ethan turned to face her, his brow furrowed. "You keep saying things like that, like I'm part of something bigger. But I still don't understand why me. Why did you choose me for whatever this is?" She hesitated, her glowing eyes searching his face. "Because you have potential, Ethan. Potential most humans, and even some of my own people, cannot see within themselves. When I kissed you, I saw your soul. Your strength, your resilience, your capacity for love. Those qualities are rare, even among the Lumini." Ethan shook his head, feeling out of his depth. "Love? We barely know each other. How can you say you saw my soul after one kiss?" "It wasn't just a kiss," she replied softly. "It was a joining, a merging of energies. Through it, I glimpsed your true self. And I knew you were meant to help us bridge the divide between our worlds." "Bridge the divide?" Ethan echoed, frustration creeping into his voice. "That sounds nice, sure, but what does it actually mean? What am I supposed to do? Babysit an alien kid while two factions fight over whose side I'm on?" Her expression softened, and for the first time, Ethan saw a flicker of vulnerability in her otherwise serene demeanor. "I wish I could give you clear answers, Ethan. But the truth is, no one knows exactly how this will unfold. All I know is that our child, your child, is special. They carry the DNA of two species, two destinies. In them lies the possibility of unity, of peace between our peoples." Ethan let out a bitter laugh. "Peace? You think having a baby together is going to stop these dissenters from blowing up my planet? Sounds like a stretch. It is more than that. she insisted. Our child will not only be a symbol of hope but also a key to unlocking ancient knowledge, a power that could tip the balance in favor of harmony or destruction. That is why the dissenters fear them. Why they fear you. Ethan's stomach churned at the weight of her words. So basically, I'm stuck in the middle of some galactic tug-of-war. Great. Just what I always wanted. Before she could respond, the ship shuddered violently, throwing them both off balance. Alarms blared, and red lights flashed across the walls. The peaceful hum of the engines transformed into a deafening roar. The dissenters have found us, the girl said grimly, steadying herself against a nearby console. They won't stop until they've eliminated any trace of our union. Ethan's heart pounded as panic set in. What do we do? Fight back? Run? Hide? She grabbed his hand tightly, her grip surprisingly strong despite her delicate appearance. We cannot run forever. But neither can we face them alone. There is someone aboard this ship who may hold the answers we need, a leader among the Lumini who has been guiding this mission from its inception. Then take me to them, Ethan said firmly. If they've got a plan, I want to hear it. The girl nodded and led him through winding corridors bathed in shifting hues of blue and silver. Along the way, other members of the Lumini passed by, their expressions tense but resolute. Some exchanged quiet words with the girl, nodding respectfully before continuing on their tasks. It was clear that she held a position of importance among her people, a fact that only added to Ethan's growing sense of unease. Finally, they arrived at a large chamber filled with floating holograms and glowing orbs of light. At the center stood a tall figure clad in flowing robes, made of what appeared to be liquid crystal. Their presence radiated authority, and when they turned to face Ethan, he felt as though he were being scrutinized down to his very core. So, this is the human, the leader said, their voice deep and melodic yet commanding. The one who carries the seed of destiny. Ethan swallowed hard, suddenly aware of how small and insignificant he felt in comparison to the grandeur of the moment. Look, I don't know about destiny or whatever. All I know is that I didn't ask for this. I didn't sign up to be some cosmic pawn in your war. The leader studied him for a long moment before responding. War is indeed what awaits us if we fail. The dissenters believe that purity must be preserved at all costs, that mingling with lesser beings will lead to ruin. But history has shown us time and again that progress comes through unity, not division. And where do I fit into all this? Ethan asked, his voice rising slightly. Why drag me into your mess? Why risk everything on some half-human, half-alien kid? Because your kind represents untapped potential, the leader explained. Humans are young, yes, but fiercely adaptable. Resilient. If guided properly, they could become allies or destroyers. Our child will serve as a beacon of hope, proof that coexistence is possible. But first, we must survive. As if on cue, another violent tremor rocked the ship, nearly knocking Ethan off his feet. Outside the chamber's transparent walls, flashes of light erupted as weapons fire lit up the void of space. We're running out of time, the girl said urgently. The dissenters are closing in. The leader nodded gravely. Then it falls to you, Ethan. You must embrace your role, not just as a father, but as a protector of two worlds. Together, we will stand against those who seek to tear us apart. Ethan clenched his fists, anger and determination warring within him. This wasn't the life he'd chosen, but it was the one thrust upon him. Whether he liked it or not, he was now part of something far greater than himself. All right, he said finally, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. Tell me what I need to do. The leader smiled faintly, a glimmer of approval in their glowing eyes. Very well. Prepare yourself, Ethan. For what lies ahead will test every fiber of your being. Ethan stood in the heart of the Lumini ship, his mind racing as the leader outlined their plan. Around him, the crew moved with precision, their movements synchronized like a well-rehearsed symphony. Holographic displays flickered with tactical maps and data streams, showing the positions of both the Lumini vessel and the dissenters' fleet. The dissenters believe strength lies in isolation, the leader explained, gesturing toward one of the holograms. They see unity as weakness, a dilution of our essence. But history has proven them wrong time and again. Your presence here, Ethan, is proof that alliances can transcend even the greatest divides. Ethan nodded slowly, trying to absorb everything. So what's the plan? How do we stop them? The leader turned to face him fully, their glowing eyes piercing through his doubts. We cannot defeat them outright, not yet. Their numbers are too great, their weapons too advanced. Instead, we must outmaneuver them. Use their aggression against them. And how exactly are we supposed to do that? Ethan asked, skepticism creeping into his voice. I'm not exactly a space warrior. I don't even know how to work half this stuff. You will not be alone, the girl interjected, stepping closer to him. Her hand found his, her touch grounding him amidst the chaos. We will guide you every step of the way. Trust us, and trust yourself. Before Ethan could respond, the ship shook violently once more, throwing everyone off balance. Alarms blared louder now, their shrill tones reverberating through the chamber. Outside, the flashes of laser fire grew more intense, lighting up the darkness of space like fireworks on a stormy night. They're targeting our engines, shouted one of the Lumini crew members. If they disable them, we'll be stranded. Not if we disable theirs first, the leader countered sharply. Turning back to Ethan, they added, This is where you come in. You carry something unique within you, a connection forged by the bond between you and my daughter. That connection gives you access to abilities beyond your understanding. Abilities we need to turn the tide. Ethan blinked, startled. Abilities? What kind of abilities? The girl squeezed his hand reassuringly. Your DNA, or rather your essence, has been altered by our union. It allows you to interface with our technology in ways no human ever could. Focus, Ethan. Let your instincts guide you. Still unsure, Ethan glanced at the glowing consoles around him. One of them pulsed faintly, drawing his attention. Without thinking, he reached out and touched it. Instantly, a surge of energy coursed through his body, flooding his mind with images and sensations. He saw the layout of the dissenters' ships, their weak points, their vulnerabilities. It was overwhelming, but also exhilarating. I think I understand, Ethan murmured, pulling his hand away. His head throbbed, but clarity began to emerge from the chaos. I can see their systems. Their flaws. If we hit them just right. Yes, the leader said, a note of triumph in their voice. That is the power of the bond. Now channel that knowledge. Work with my daughter to coordinate our attack. Ethan hesitated for only a moment before nodding. Together, he and the girl approached a large console at the center of the chamber. As they worked side by side, Ethan felt an odd sense of harmony. Despite the dire circumstances, there was something almost natural about collaborating with her. Their minds seemed to sync effortlessly, each thought flowing seamlessly into the next. Target their primary weapon array, Ethan instructed, pointing to a section of the holographic display. It's heavily armored, but if we concentrate our fire here, we'll create a chain reaction. The girl finished, her fingers dancing over the controls. Good. Initiating sequence now. The ship rumbled as its weapons charged, emitting a low hum that resonated through Ethan's chest. Moments later, beams of light shot outward, striking the designated area on the dissenter's flagship. Explosions erupted across its surface, sending debris spiraling into the void. Cheers erupted among the Lumini crew, but the celebration was short-lived. The dissenters retaliated swiftly, launching a barrage of missiles that slammed into the Lumini ship's shields. Sparks flew, and several crew members were thrown to the ground. We can't hold them off forever, cried another crew member. Their reinforcements are incoming. The leader's expression hardened. Then we must act decisively. Ethan, focus on their command ship. Find its core, the source of their power. Destroy it, and their fleet will falter. Ethan gritted his teeth, sweat dripping down his forehead. This was insane. Just days ago, he'd been an ordinary farmer tending to his crops. Now, He was orchestrating a battle against an alien armada while carrying the fate of 2 worlds, and a child he hadn't even met, on his shoulders. Closing his eyes, Ethan reached out with his mind, letting the connection guide him. The images came faster this time, clearer. He saw the command ship's inner workings, its pulsating core surrounded by layers of shielding. A single strike in the right place would bring it all crashing down. "There!" he exclaimed, pointing to a specific location on the display. "If we overload the reactor, it'll destabilize the entire system. But we'll have to get close, dangerously close." The girl looked at him, concern etched on her luminous features. "Are you sure? It's risky. It's the only shot we've got," Ethan replied firmly. "Let's do it." The leader gave a curt nod. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers. Pilot, bring us within range. Everyone else, brace yourselves." As the Lumini ship surged forward, dodging enemy fire and weaving through the battlefield, Ethan felt a strange calm settle over him. For the first time since this nightmare began, he wasn't just reacting, he was taking control. Whatever happened next, he knew he couldn't give up. Not when so much was at stake. When they were finally in position, Ethan took a deep breath and activated the final sequence. Energy crackled around him, and the ship shuddered violently as it unleashed its payload directly at the command ship's core. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a blinding flash, the core exploded, sending shockwaves rippling through space. The dissenters' fleet wavered, their formations crumbling as their leadership collapsed. "We did it," the girl whispered, her voice filled with awe. "You did it, Ethan." But before anyone could celebrate, a new alarm sounded, one deeper, more ominous than before. The leader's expression darkened as they turned to face Ethan. "It's not over," they said grimly. "The explosion has triggered a singularity, a black hole forming at the site of the blast. We need to escape now." Ethan's stomach dropped. "How long do we have?" "Minutes," the leader replied. "If we don't jump to hyperspace immediately, we'll be pulled in along with the dissenters." The girl grabbed Ethan's hand tightly, her eyes locking onto his. "Trust me. We'll make it through this. Together." With no time to waste, the Lumini crew sprang into action, rerouting power and initiating the jump sequence. The ship groaned under the strain as it accelerated, fighting against the gravitational pull of the growing singularity. Just as the edges of the black hole began to consume everything in its path, the Lumini ship vanished into the safety of hyperspace, leaving the chaos behind. In the sudden silence that followed, Ethan sank to the floor, his body trembling with exhaustion. They had survived, for now. But as he looked at the girl beside him, he knew their journey was far from over. "What happens next?" he asked quietly. She smiled faintly, though her eyes remained serious. "Next, we prepare for the challenges ahead. Because the real battle has only just begun." The Lumini ship drifted through the endless expanse of hyperspace, its interior bathed in a soft, calming glow. The chaos of battle had subsided, replaced by an eerie quiet that seemed to echo louder than any explosion. Ethan sat slumped against a wall in the main chamber, his body aching from the strain of everything he'd endured. His mind was a whirlwind of emotions, relief, fear, disbelief, and yet beneath it all, there was a strange sense of purpose. He glanced at the girl beside him, her luminous form shimmering faintly in the dim light. She looked as composed as ever, but Ethan could see the weariness in her eyes. Whatever they had just survived, it had taken its toll on her too. "So, what now?" Ethan asked finally, breaking the silence. "We stopped the dissenters, for now, but how long until they come after us again?" "They will regroup," she admitted softly. "Their hatred runs deep, and their leaders will not rest until they've erased every trace of our union. But for the moment, we have bought ourselves some time." "Time for what?" Ethan pressed, his frustration bubbling to the surface. "To prepare for another fight? To keep running? I'm tired of being caught in the middle of this. I didn't ask for any of this." Her expression softened, and she reached out to place a hand on his shoulder. "No one asks to be thrust into such circumstances, Ethan. But destiny rarely gives us a choice. What matters is how we respond to it. And you have shown remarkable strength. More than I ever imagined. Ethan sighed, rubbing his temples. Strength doesn't mean much if I don't even know what I'm fighting for. You talk about peace and unity, but what does that actually look like? How do we get there? Before she could answer, the leader approached them, their flowing robes trailing behind them like liquid starlight. They carried an air of authority, but also a hint of vulnerability that made Ethan sit up straighter. The path forward will not be easy, the leader said, their voice resonating with both wisdom and gravity. But it begins with understanding. Humanity and the Lumini are not so different. We share common desires, survival, connection, legacy. Your child will embody those ideals, serving as a bridge between our peoples. Through them, others may learn to see beyond their differences. Ethan frowned, skepticism creeping into his tone. That sounds nice in theory, but people, humans especially, are stubborn. Even if this kid grows up to be some kind of cosmic diplomat, how do we convince billions of people to trust aliens they've never met? It starts small, the leader replied. With individuals like yourself. By showing courage, compassion, and resilience, you inspire others to follow. Change often begins with a single act of bravery. Ethan let out a bitter laugh. Yeah, because nothing says bravery like getting dragged into an intergalactic war because of a kiss. The girl shot him a reproachful look. Do not diminish what you have done, Ethan. You faced danger head-on, risking your life for something greater than yourself. That is true bravery. Ethan opened his mouth to argue but stopped himself. Deep down, he knew she was right. Despite his doubts and fears, he hadn't backed down when it mattered most. He had stepped up, even when every instinct told him to run. All right, he said finally, his voice quieter but firmer. Say I accept all this. Say I'm ready to play my part. What's the next step? The leader exchanged a glance with the girl before answering. First, we must ensure your safety, and the safety of our child. The dissenters will stop at nothing to eliminate you both. We need to find a secure location where you can live without constant threat. And then? Ethan prompted. Then, the leader continued, we begin building alliances. Not just among the Lumini, but among humans as well. Your world holds untapped potential, Ethan. If we can foster cooperation between our species, we may yet create a future worth fighting for. Ethan nodded slowly, absorbing the weight of their words. It was a daunting task, to be sure, one that would require patience, perseverance, and more than a little luck. But as he looked at the girl beside him, he felt a flicker of hope. For all the uncertainty ahead, he wasn't alone. Together, they might just stand a chance. As the ship continued its journey through hyperspace, Ethan allowed himself a moment of reflection. Just days ago, he'd been an ordinary farmer living an unremarkable life. Now, he was part of something extraordinary, something that transcended borders, species, and even time itself. Whether he liked it or not, his destiny was intertwined with hers, and theirs with countless others. I guess there's no going back to normal, huh? Ethan murmured, half joking. The girl smiled faintly, her glowing eyes meeting his. Normal is overrated. Besides, who wants a boring life when you can have an adventure among the stars? Ethan chuckled despite himself. Fair point. Still, I think I'd trade a little less adventure for a lot more sleep. She laughed softly, the sound melodic and soothing. Rest while you can, Ethan. Tomorrow brings new challenges, and new opportunities. With that, she stood and extended a hand to help him up. Ethan hesitated for only a moment before taking it, letting her pull him to his feet. As they walked side by side toward the ship's observation deck, he couldn't help but marvel at the view outside the window. Stars streaked past in streaks of light, each one a reminder of the vastness of the universe, and the infinite possibilities within it. For better or worse, Ethan was no longer just a farmer. He was a father, a protector, and a harbinger of change. And though the road ahead would undoubtedly be fraught with peril, he knew one thing for certain. Whatever happened next, he wouldn't face it alone.